Number one, love. Number one, love. We're looking at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church. That's a pillar. That's a pillar in every family. That's a pillar that sustains the family, that sustains the house. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church. But it's not a one-sided love. Only the husband loving the wife, and the wife not loving. Somebody said, well, those wives, we don't need to teach them to love. They love naturally. That's not true. That's not true. Titus chapter 2. Titus chapter 2. And we're reading from verse 3 all through to verse 5. It says, the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not giving to much wine, teachers of good things. That is, the women leaders in the church, and those who are matured, and those who have been in this race before these young women came into the race, and those who have married, they've raised families, they've raised children, and they've helped and supported their husbands, and they have manifested the quality of a Christian wife. Now they're aged, now they're elderly. Let them teach now the women. What are they to teach the younger wives? Look at verse 4. That they may teach the young women to be sober, and to love their husbands, and to love their children. And we're not talking about, a mother just naturally loving the children, a wife naturally loving the wife. We're taught in the scripture that this is a scripture, we should look at, and the kind of love we ought to have is not just I love you, I love you. What are the components of that love? And what does the scripture expect from the husband, from the wife? That they love each other. And it says to be distinct in verse 5, and chaste. That's part of the love demonstration to the husband. Keep us at home. That's part of that love. She's not running away from home early in the morning and then very late at night, coming back. And the husband and the wife, they barely see, they barely talk, they barely relate. There's no communication. It says keep us at home good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. One pillar, love. The love of Christ. The love coming from the heart of Christ to the believer. We're looking at Ephesians chapter 4 verse 31. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 31. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. That's one side of love. The absence of bitterness and the absence of malice and the absence of bullying on each other, shouting on each other. That is a clamor. The absence of malice. There's no malice. You wake up in the morning, you love your wife, you love your husband, you love your children, you love your parents. There is love. That is the absence of every negative attitude. Look at the positive side of that love, verse 32. And be ye kind one to another. Be thoughtful. Think of kind things you can say, you ought to say, and the kind things you ought to do. Little things, little drops of water make a mighty ocean. And the little acts of love and the little acts of kindness, it says, and be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. And that is, you are not keeping the offense. My wife did that, my husband did that, my children did that, my parents did that, and the home is a battleground, and it's a ground for retaliation. I remember what she did. She must suffer for that. I remember what he said about my mother, what he said about my father. He must suffer for that. I remember the way he has, made himself to be like a stranger, a tyrant at home. I must pay him back. It says, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you. That's one pillar. That pillar is love. And this is not just something we learn about, we read about, we study about. It is something we will. That is, by the will, you say, I'm going to love her. By your will, I'm going to love him. It's by determination. It's by a decision. And you're going to pray that whatever will contradict that kind of pillar, that will cut down that pillar in your family, that no, it will not stand. You'll be stronger than the termites. You'll be greater than the termites. You'll be greater than the things that come to the family, that happen in the family, that tries to break down the pillar of love. We're looking at Songs of Solomon, chapter 8. Songs of Solomon, chapter 8. I'm looking at verse 6. Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm. For love is strong as death, irresistible. Love is as strong as death, but jealousy, on the other hand, is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which has a most vehement flame. It's saying that the love you have to your wife, the love you have for your husband, is not something placid, it's not something dull, it's not something dormant, it's not just something quiet. It is fervent, and it has a flame. And you know, if a fire is burning somewhere, somebody will know the fire is burning. You cannot say, you know, I love her, but you know, she may not be able to tell. And you cannot tell how much I love you. My husband, you don't show love to me. You know, it is not what I do, it is not what I say. It may appear that I don't have love for you, but you know, deep in my heart, the love is so deep, I cannot even express it. The love is so deep, you will never see it, but you know, take it by faith. I love you. No, it is something that is like a flame, like fire, and it is fervent. Look at verse 7. Many waters cannot quench love. We're talking of the love of Christ. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. You know, persecution might come, jesting might come, maybe between husband and wife. At present now, all you're expecting is not in the family yet. And the parents of the man, they are saying, what kind of a woman is this? We don't have this, you don't have this, you don't have that. Many waters of criticism cannot quench that love. And many waters of, you know, I didn't know it will be like this, I didn't know this will happen, that will happen, and all these challenges and restrictions and, you know, a kind of poverty, I didn't know this will happen. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. If a man will give all the substance of his house for love, it will utterly be contained. What that is saying is that your love is kind of superb and supreme. Other men may try to win your attention. It looks like, you know, you made a mistake in that marriage, and you don't have this, you don't have this. You know, if you switch over to me, I can give you this, I can provide this for you. It says no. All those things that people can promise outside your marriage, it will not affect your love. You say, no, thank you very much. My husband is my husband, and is the greatest and the highest king in the whole of the universe for me. Apart from Christ, he is the next person. And my wife is a queen for me, and apart from Christ, she is the next one. And so you are not exchanging what you have for any other thing. Number one pillar, love.